Well, last time we discussed about an hypothesis of an organizational model for professionals on European frauds. Today, we focus on the communication of these frauds strictly connected to the last task. So, the need to create professional figures with expertise in the field of frauds carry out to the detriment of the European budget is intimately linked to in-depth knowledge of the fraudulent schemes implemented, combined primarily through communications of suspected irregularities, frauds to the European Commission. So, this communication have a regulatory basis with regard to the financial programming of the European Union 2007-2013 in regulation number 1848/2006 regarding the common agricultural policy, and in regulation number 1828/2006 for the structural funds. In relation to the 2014-2020 financial cycle, the regulatory basis can be identified, however, in the delegated regulations of the Commission of 8 July 2015, number 1971 2015 and number 1975 2015 regarding the common agricultural policy, and number 1970 and number 1974 2015 for ESI funds. Now, the communication of suspected irregularities and frauds to the detriment of the European Union budget to the Commission constitutes a requirement for each member state to be fulfilled electronically within 2 months following the end of each quarter in relation to the cases subject to the first administrative or judicial report, so-called PACA, Premier Act of the Constant Administrative or Judiciary, of an amount exceeding 10,000 euros. Now, however, there is no univocal declination of the PACA concept by the member state. Thus, over time, a picture of uneven behavior has arisen, cases arisen due precisely to the different interpretation of the moment in which cases of suspected irregularity or fraud can be considered detected, with consequent discrepancies in the timing of communication to Olaf. As noted in the Olaf annual report to Parliament for the year 2015, the different approach in the practical application of PACA generates notable differences in the entry of data into the Commission's IMS system, and therefore, downstream, a clear impossibility of comparison of statistical data. Now, the situation in Italy. In Italy, the rules of practice aimed at regulating the system and defining the PACA are, at the moment, contained in the interministerial circular of 12 October 2007 and in the related explanatory notes, both issued in relation to the 2007-2013 financial programming, and of which it is foreseen the update by a special working group promoted by COLAF. According to the current regulations, therefore, the moment in which the obligation to communicate to the European Commission arises must be traced back to the first administrative or judicial report. For example, the first written evaluation drawn up by a competent administrative or judicial authority, so-called decision-making body, which, even if not definitely, ascertains on the basis of concrete facts the existence of an irregularity or fraud to the detriment of the Union. A lot of details. In details, the first administrative assessment report is identified in the formal assessment by the competent decision-making body of the facts and elements found emerged without the need for a real assessment of merit. Then, the first judicial investigation report is instead traced back to the exercise of criminal action by the judicial authority, in particular, request to the indictment of alternative rights pursuant Article 405 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, or issuance of the decree of direct summons to trial pursuant to Articles 500 and 552 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. In the case of involvement of subject holding public functions, to the issue, therefore prior to the exercise of criminal proceedings, of arrest, detention, and the precautionary custody measures adopted against the latter. The so-called external control bodies, such as the police forces, instead have the task of providing the decision-making bodies without prejudice to the constraint of investigative secrecy deriving from the existence of criminally relevant circumstances or the necessary information to complete the reporting form to be forwarded to the Commission if hypotheses of suspected irregularities or fraud emerge as part of their control activities. The obligation of the decision-making bodies, however, are, first of all, the forwarding without delay, and in the case of secrecy of the investigation, subject to authorization from the judicial authority of a specific reporting form to the competent central administrations and bodies for the definitive forwarding of the reports to the Commission, namely the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Forestry Policies for the Common Agriculture Policy, then Department for European Policies of the Presidency of the Council of Ministers with regard to the structural funds, then the Customs and monopolies agency for export refunds and own resources. Then sending feedback to the external control bodies regarding the decision taken with regard to each report. The central bodies are responsible for validating and therefore definitely forwarding the periodic communication relating to cases of irregularity or fraud to the detriment of the European Union budget, subject to the first administrative or judicial report for an amount exceeding 1,000 euros. Then, Olaf communication in the 2021 focused on its unique and vital role in helping keep European citizens safe and healthy, defending the money of European taxpayers from fraud and making sure EU funding reaches the people and the project it was intended for. Olaf supported journalists in reporting on its investigative achievements, such as complex cross-border fraud schemes, evasion of custom duties by highly organized criminal groups, and operation against smuggling and counterfeit, illicit and dangerous products. This included cases involving harm to the environment and Europe's green ambitions, such as those related to trade in illicit refrigerant gases or illegal pesticides and waste trafficking. As the pandemic continued to dominate the news throughout 2021, Olaf's role is ensuring the safety of citizens, for example, by stopping shipments of fake or substandard masks and sanitizing gels, was also highlighted in the office's communication. Olaf's work on fraudulent offers of vaccines against COVID-19 to national authorities in the EU therefore attracted attention during the first half of 2021. The protection of future funding to be provided for the EU's recovery from the COVID-19 crisis and the cooperation with the newly created EPPO also generated much media interest, especially during the second half of 2021. As it does every year, Olaf published its annual report on its activities of the previous year. In June 2021, Olaf's senior management presented the Olaf Report 2020 at a fully interactive virtual press conference, which allowed journalists to connect and ask questions online. The report was also presented to several stakeholders, such as representatives of the EU institutions and civil society, in September 2021. The general increase in awareness of and interest in Olaf works was also reflected in the growth of the office's Twitter account, renamed the EU Anti-Fraud in 2021, which saw a 30% increase in its number of followers in 2021. Moreover, a dedicated Olaf LinkedIn page was created in 2021, which attracted about 1,800 subscribers in its first year of existence. In 2021, Olaf organized its second anti-corruption conference, entitled United Against Corruption, upholding the ethical standard of the EU institution, bringing together high-level speakers and hundreds of representatives of EU institutions. Olaf also set up an online outreach campaign encouraging the reporting of fraud and irregularities, organizing 7 webinars addressed to staff in the EU delegation around the world and EU officials based in Brussels who work on the EU external action. Olaf continued to develop its communication activities with international partners, for example, through shared press news items and social media posts with international bodies such as Europol, such as Eurojust, as well as through a virtual meeting of the Olaf Anti-Fraud Communicators Network, OAFCN, which brings together communicators from national anti-fraud agencies, customs services, and other relevant administration. Thanks for the attention.